The Atlantic's November cover story is by CNN's Jake Tapper, and it details the story of C.J. Rice, a patient of Jake's father. Rice was convicted of attempted murder in 2013.
Jake revisits the police investigation of the then 17-year-old black teen from Philadelphia, and also the trial, focusing on the legal representation available to Rice, which was inadequate at best, and at worst, a case study in incompetent legal practice. Jake joins us now. Jake, first, between those two, you know, having read this article, incompetence or inadequacy here?
I mean, look, I can't speak to Sanjay Weaver as an attorney in general. I don't know her. She's not alive anymore, and I'm not familiar with other cases. All I know is this case, and I can tell you that it was just instant after instant where she just failed to provide basic lawyering, basic defense skills. Her client, C.J. Rice, was 17. She didn't even move to have the case heard in a juvenile court. She didn't apparently visit the crime scene. She didn't poke holes in the only evidence against C.J., which was one witness who had previously said 3 times she had no idea who did it, and then changed her mind the next day and said C.J. did it after the police got a tip that he did. Didn't even point that out. Just instant after instant. Now, my dad testified at the trial, and he said for the first time in his entire career, and he's a doctor, so he's testified in cases before, he never met the attorney until he was on the stand, and that she failed to ask basic questions that would have elicited the answers that could have provided a defense for him, namely that my dad said CJ could barely walk at the time of the shooting, much less run.
So take us back, Jake, walk us back. When your dad met him, when your dad treated him, what your dad noticed, and why, you know, to your point, your dad said he probably wouldn't be able to walk at that point.
So my dad had been his pediatrician for his whole life, and so he'd been seeing him forever. When he was in September 20th, I think it was, 2011, CJ came in. He had been shot 3 weeks before. CJ said it was a case of mistaken identity, but whatever the reason, CJ had bullets in him. He had about 3 dozen or so staples up and down his chest, and my dad said that he could barely walk. He was shuffling around like a sick 100-year-old man. Could barely stand, could barely move around, could barely get on the examination table. So he was stunned 5 days later to hear that CJ was named as a suspect in a shooting where the assailants ran. And my dad said it just wasn't possible for that to have happened. And then, because Sanjay Weaver was such an incompetent attorney, CJ's co-defendant was acquitted, but CJ was found guilty and sentenced to 30 to 60 years for attempted murder. Nobody was even seriously injured in the shooting, much less killed, but he's now in prison, and my dad has been trying to get the appeals process going and the like, but you know, the judicial system in our country protects itself. It's very difficult to get anything overturned, especially for, you know, the basic idea that he did not have adequate counsel, because in this country, the Sixth Amendment is a joke. I mean, you can be a drunk, you can be asleep, you can be mentally incompetent, you can be disbarred, and our judicial system does not consider you to be inadequate. So that's when he asked if I would if I would examine what happened and investigate.
Step by step, as you read through this, starting with the identification of him, the photo array, the officers who knew who they wanted to be identified are the people at that time who were showing the photograph to the eyewitness, and you go on, and all of the landmarks in this case just did not serve this young man well at all. Jake, I thank you for bringing us the story.